Hello and welcome to the Daily Fabric Fondle at Cottonweed's Quilt Shop in Freeport, Maine. Today we're going to see what Lori is doing. I have had an exciting day. I did a little mountain biking, played Foursquare with the kids, and now we're going to do some sewing. I am working on half square triangles as part of the Botanica Park block of the month, so I thought I'd show you my favorite way of making half square triangles. My favorite way of making half square triangles is the way that this particular pattern has you do them, which is to start with 2 squares of fabric. The finished half square triangles are going to be 2 inches, so unfinished 2.5, and they have you first cut squares that are 3 1/4 inches. Okay, 3 1/4 inches. These are going to be 2-inch finished half square triangles eventually. I've taken my light squares and I've drawn 3 lines. This middle line just goes from corner to corner of the square. That's going to later be my cutting line. And then each of these other 2 lines are 1/4 inch from the center line. Those are going to be my stitching lines. I'm going to lay the square with the markings right sides together with my other fabric. Now in this case I'm using batiks, so both sides could be the right side, either side. But if you were using regular cotton, you would make sure that they were right sides together. And we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew. Do you like my band-aid? We're going to sew down these 2 lines that are 1/4 inch from the center line. And when I sew for half square triangles, I'm actually going to sew just a thread or 2 on the inside of this line. That is because when we press the triangle, the half square triangle open, you want the press to be exactly on this line. And so if that's where your stitch is, the press is actually going to be a tad to the right. So if the stitch is just a little bit to the inside of this line, when you press it open, it'll fold exactly on that line, which is what you want. So my needle is set to come down in this particular line just to the left of this line. Ooh, it's hard to sew when you're holding a camera. So you can see my stitches are just to the left of my drawn line, and that is what you want when you're stitching down the line for your half square triangle. I'm now going to stitch the other side. And as you can see here, I've stitched just to the left of the line. Now we are going to cut on the diagonal line in the middle, which I'm not going to attempt to do while I'm holding this camera. So just believe me when I say I'm going to the cutting board and I'm going to cut right along that line in the middle. There are my 2 triangles. I'm going to open them up and we are going to see that we have made a half square triangle. Now we press. Usually we press to the dark side. So here we go on this side. I'm going to finger press it first. We'll get our iron. And we'll give it a quick little press. There we go. I'm going to flip it over. And we're going to press on this side as well. Here's my half square triangle. Now I'm going to trim it down to 2.5 inches unfinished. And this is why I love this method of half square triangle making, because sometimes our sewing is a little wonky. Yes, even professional sewers like myself get a little wonky now and then. So I like that I can trim it up and it looks super slick. I'm going to get my precision trimmer tool to do the trimming. Here's the Precision Trimmer 6. And we use this, I mostly use it to trim my half square triangles, but you can trim anything. This is the 6.5 inch version. So you can see here there's a 2.5 inch mark. This is what I want. I'm going to trim this to 2.5 inches. So I'm going to put this dotted diagonal line, and I'm going to center it along the diagonal line of my half square triangle. So I've got about the same amount between this corner and the end of my half square triangle as over here. You're just eyeballing it so that it is centered. Okay, so this diagonal line is along the diagonal line of my triangle, about the same amount here from the tip of the ruler to the end of the triangle, about the same amount there as here from that dark corner. That's the 2.5 inch line from that tip to the end of the triangle. Okay, now I'm going to trim right along this edge. I'm going to trim up this way, and then I'm going to trim, well, without hitting it, of course, holding it better, and I'm going to trim along that edge. I've trimmed off those two sides. Now I'm going to turn my half square triangle around, and I'm going to do the other two sides. So I'm just going to do a flippy flip. I'm going to get my scraps out of the way here, and I'm going to use again the 2.5 inch mark on the ruler. This time I'm going to even it up along the 2.5 inch line exactly in the corner, and theoretically also the diagonal line should line up. Okay, so we've got the 2.5 inch mark here straight against my triangle, my half square triangle edge. Same thing along the bottom, the 2.5 inch mark. Okay, diagonal dotted line is right along the diagonal of the half square triangle. I'm going to cut along this side and then along the top. Here we go. And here's my half square triangle. Oh, it's so cute. And it's nice and even. There's no wonkiness. I love this method. So this method, again, is to cut squares that are larger than you really need. So again, this was supposed to be 2.5 inches unfinished. We cut squares at 3.25 inches, which made the half square triangle larger than what I needed, and I trimmed it down. Look at that, slick. That's my favorite way to make half square triangles. Now we have all of these cute little half square triangles, trimmed and fun to play with. I made these for a particular pattern, so I'm going to be following what they say to do. But half square triangles are super fun to just play with and make things like, let's make a pinwheel. You can make pinwheels with half square triangles. Huh? How cute is that? Look at that. So you can play around with them, make any kind of design that you want. I hope you enjoyed playing with half square triangles today with us on the Daily Fabric Fondle.